I open this 30th session of the trial. Mr. Hausner, will you please inform us of your stand in regard to Hoettl and Huppenkotken? By permission of court, since as regards these two witnesses, we do not know about crimes against the Jewish people committed by them, but all the information we have is that they belonged to criminal organizations as defined in paragraph 3 of the Law Against Nazis and Their Collaborators 1950. And although this is a crime, an offense on which we could bring the two to trial if they are in Israel, but I am authorized to inform the court that in consideration of reasons which I shall read in detail later, then Hoettl and Huppenkotken will be permitted to come to Israel, to come to court and give their evidence and leave the country without being put on trial. And these are the reasons for our consent. As I said before, we do not know about crimes committed by them against the Jewish people. Secondly, the prosecution also takes notice to what was said by this court in decision number 11, that as a matter of principle, the bringing of a witness before this court is always to be preferred. Thirdly, we also bring into account the information by the defense for the counsel for the defense that Hoettl is the important witness for the accused.
The most important.
Therefore, and considering all these reasons, I inform the court that they will be permitted to come to Israel, they will be given entry visas and will not be brought to trial for their crimes.
Ich darf vielleicht eine aufklärende Frage stellen. Ist es so, dass auch, falls sich im Kreuzverhör Belastungen ergeben würden für den Zeugen, dass auch dann eben die freie Rückkehr gesichert ist?
With regard to an elucidating question, whether they will be able to leave the country even if in cross-examination some incriminating effect might appear. No, they will not be brought to justice for anything they did in the past.
This will be Exhibit T384.
And this, at this stage, is our evidence in regard to Poland and the eastern countries. We shall now submit to court the story of the western countries and the liquidation and extermination. This will be done by my colleague, Mr. Bach.
Judge Landa, I wish to inform you that in the meantime, the first 4 applications for testimony have gone out from this court, have been sent to West Germany, and the representatives of both sides can obtain copies of these applications at the end of this session. Please, Mr. Bach.
Your Honors, it has been decided at Wannsee, if the court remember, that Europe should be combed from the west to the east, that Jews should be caught and transferred to what is called to labor in the east. And in fact, the intention was extermination. We shall now describe to the court how this combing and extermination of Jews was carried out, how they were transported to the extermination camps in the east, one country after another, one stage after the other. We shall prove to the court that the accused is the man who was immediately and directly responsible for the implementing of these crimes, that he is the man who directed and commanded these extermination actions. We shall begin by describing the Holocaust to the Jews of France. I shall begin by submitting a number of documents and will later bring to court evidence to make the submission of documents more realistic to this court. I shall submit the documents in a chronological order as far as possible. One of the first actions done after the invasion of France was the confiscation of Jewish property in France. The first document, our document number 440, was published at the Nuremberg trials, the Iron
Session. On every Tuesday, he would meet with the commander of the army, the administrators, economic officials, embassy representatives, and with the commander of the Western operation of Reichsleiter Rosenberg. He speaks about this coordinating session on Tuesday and says at the end as following: recognizing command is reflected in the fact that these meetings take place in our office. This is a recognition of our authority. Again, our leadership, the recognition of our leadership is reflected in the fact that these meetings take place in our office. Signed, Danneker. From Danneker, we now pass, Your Honors, to cables and letters from the accused himself, addressed directly, dealing directly with the deportation of Jews to Auschwitz. Our next document, number 694, this is a cable to the Paris office, Jewish deportations. After the timetable is drafted, the Jews will be taken to an absorption camp which is in the Reich. The more exact details will be discussed with Hauptsturmführer Danneker. They are postponed to another date and will be discussed here in Berlin. The evacuation of Jews who are living in mixed marriages, this is postponed for the time being. In brackets it says stressed. The word for the time being is being stressed. Appropriate arrangements, again this is stressed in the original. Here too SS Sturmführer Danneker will receive exact instructions because he is now in Berlin. Signed, Eichmann, SS Obersturmbannführer. The next document, Your Honor, our number 177, this in fact has already been submitted to you, together with the announcement made by the accused to Bureau 06. It was then marked T33 in brackets 60. It consists, in fact, of a number of letters, which I shall permit myself to draw your attention to the most important among them. The first is a cable from Eichmann. No, it's a letter from Eichmann to Rademacher in the Foreign Ministry. The subject, the evacuation of 1,000 Jews from France. We have the intention of sending to the Auschwitz concentration camp. Judge Landau, this is not the first document which we have. Our first document is signed by Rademacher. Mr. Bach, maybe the order is slightly different. Perhaps I should like to ask then that you take Eichmann's letter to Rademacher from the 9th of March. This is what I am referring to now. It's of the 9th of March. It's the first letter. We have the intention of deporting to the Auschwitz concentration camp in Upper Silesia 1,000 Jews who were detained in the course of punitive measures taken on the 12th of December 1941 in Paris in reaction to attempts to assassinate Wehrmacht people. Generally, these are Jews, French subjects, or stateless Jews. The deportation of these 1,000 Jews who are now detained in the Compiègne camp must be carried out on the 3rd of March 1942 in a special train. I should be grateful for a statement that you have no reservations about this action. They refer to 1,000 Jews here. 2 days later, on the 11th of March, the following letter was written. To the Foreign Ministry, attention, Counselor Rademacher.
Please do not quote too many passages, Mr. Bach.
Mr. Bach, only one sentence. Further to our urgent letter of the 9th of March, we wish to inform that in addition to the evacuation of 1,000 Jews of Compiègne set for the 6th of March 42, in the near future we have to deport another 5,000 Jews who were conspicuous in the eyes of the security police. They also have to be deported to Auschwitz. May I request that you agree to this? Also signed Eichmann. And now, Your Honors, various letters from the embassy in Paris, from the Foreign Ministry, all of them say we have no reservations, no objections, we agree to this procedure, to this action. This document was presented, as will be recalled, to the accused, and beginning on page 1181 of the transcript of his statement in the police interrogation, he made his reactions to this document. I should like to draw your attention to a passage on page 1100, 87. The number is, 1187 is the number. It's a small passage where he says, he's being shown these letters. If that was so, then this was only because the military commander had intervened. He must have been the initiator, and this required punitive measures. From the police commander, the superior SS commander, he referred it further on, and this automatically reached the head office of Reich Security, and from head office it reached me. Since it's a question of Jews, it was then referred to the Foreign Ministry. Well, what do you say to this? You're authorized. He is asked by the interrogator less. The punishment of hostages or their capture, and here according to these letters, it's He referred it further on, and this automatically reached the head office of Reich Security, and from head office it reached me. Since it's a question of Jews, it was then referred to the foreign ministry. Well, what do you say to this? You're authorized. He is asked by the interrogator Les. The punishment of hostages or their capture, and here according to these letters, they are speaking about hostages. This belonged to Department 4 of the Gestapo, Eichmann says. Yes, yes, yes. Les? No. Eichmann? Yes, yes. Judge Halevi.
Are hostages any hostages or Jewish hostages?
Mr. Bach, Department 4, Roman numeral 4, dealt with any kind of hostages, but 4B4, of course, dealt with Jews alone. We shall show, through another document which we shall soon submit, that all of this argumentation, as though the army initiated all of this, does not correspond to the situation, that sometimes the army even refused to take part. But this will follow in a few moments.
I understand that the court gave this document a new number?
No, sir, no. It's the number which it bears in your series. The whole batch is Exhibit T402.
The following document is our number 58454 and is also marked as T37 by the court, 34 in brackets. Dannecker here in a memorandum recalls that on the 4th of March in Berlin, he says, I've already pointed out the necessity of evacuating the Jews from Compiègne. Obersturmbannführer Eichmann has promised to undertake the evacuation in March. I also confirmed this and demanded by cable to 4B4 and also inquired regarding the transport facilities to Auschwitz. Also an escort for those trains was demanded in this document.
That's Exhibit T403.
מדובר הוא כאן בזwischenaufenthalt vorgesehen in KZ Auschwitz.
In Auschwitz? What follows? And what follows after that?
And later there is a meeting in August 42, and there, according to a description by Wislizeny invited to this meeting, Eichmann described the situation exactly, the situation in Auschwitz. And at this stage, before those referents, Eichmann did not tell them the whole truth regarding the situation of the Jews in the East. President of Court, I understand that you maintain that the man who wrote this report is not a kind of transition period before the extermination. Is that it? prosecution. I cannot say what Dannecker knew or what he did not know, but it is quite possible that during that meeting they were instructed to say so as far as the outer world was concerned. I only say that there is evidence given by Wislicenny that until August 42 they really did not know, but on the 28th of August 42 there was another meeting held, and we shall bring the report of that meeting before the court. Then we were told, he says, about the real situation. The court, you mean to say that they learned about the real situation? Dannecker learned about it only later. Prosecution, Dannecker was of a lower rank than Eichmann. I cannot remember Wislicenny's rank. I think he was an Obersturmführer at the time.
And that provided that Wislicenny's version is true, and that it was not some kind of a camouflage terminology.
This is quite possible, and the same will hold true also regarding some people in the Foreign Office. There was a certain terminology for outsiders. Who was the cheated and who the cheaters is very difficult sometimes to say. But regarding the accused, there will be no difficulty at all. The following document is number 54, prosecution serial number. And here Dannecker hands over the following very interesting words. In March 42, I pointed out the necessity to evacuate the Jews from Compiègne. SS Obersturmbannführer Eichmann promised their evacuation in March. I already quoted this passage, and I had in mind another document, 113 really. Here, he speaks of the same meeting of the 24th of March and says, I described the difficulties for our future activities in France. In any way, I have spoken in detail about the necessity to propose to the French government something really positive, as he expresses himself, like the evacuation and deportation of a few thousands of Jews. In the presence of the Jewish representative in Brussels, SS Obersturmbannführer Eichmann stated that, subject to the final consent of the head of the security department, we can already begin the early negotiations with the French government in regard to the evacuation of 5,000 Jews eastwards. He says that for the time being, Jews taken must not be over the age of 55, and of French nationality they must be deprived of that nationality before their deportation, and the latest 1 day before their deportation. The matter of property must also be arranged. Mass deportations from Slovakia is expected soon, and according to estimates, based on the ratio of Jews and property, Jewish property, the Slovakian government is paying for every Jew evacuated 500 Reichsmark and carries the evacuation expenses. Since this is not the same in the case of the French Jews, this, too, must be carried out a careful study of the property of the Jews in France. We stress this point to point out this systematic approach and the connection between the activities in France and other countries, the system of dealing with Jewish property and Jewish evacuation, all arranged and in an orderly system, all through. The court This is Exhibit 404.
Judge Halevi, are those the very same 5,000 Jews which were mentioned in those documents as being in addition to the first 1,000? Mr. Bach, apparently the reference is to those 5,000. The dates would also seem to indicate this. But
it seems that it has been decided here that this will be done, and not waiting for the answer from the Foreign Office, because these letters came at the same time, at the same period. The following letter is our number 457. And here, from Brussels to the office, to Sturmbannführer Elis, who headed the Brussels office at the time. The letter again is drafted by Dannecker. And as was already said in Berlin, it seemed that the uprooting of the Jews in all taken areas would be desirable to take up these activities at one and the same time. The representative of Amsterdam was also present, and therefore the date was fixed for the 14th of March 42. And this is the cooperation and coordination of all offices, Amsterdam, Brussels, Paris, for the meeting in Berlin.
T405. What is RF, République Française, or Reichsführer?
Yes, this is Reichsführer.
I was wondering. I didn't think it could be République Française. This will be Exhibit T405.
Now, after Dannecker wrote to Brussels, he writes to Amsterdam, to Sturmbannführer Lages, who at the time was the commander of the security police in Amsterdam. Our number is 1259.
That's Exhibit T406.
Dannecker sent all details to Lages about his conversation with Aschek in Paris, one of those active in Belgium. And I call the attention of the court to passage number 4, where it says that we need no special reason for the German authorities. This step must be explained as an intermediary step towards the final solution of the Jewish problem.
Judge Landau, who is signed here?
The signature here is not very clear, but according to the style and the way of drafting, it must have been Dannecker. The following document is a cable sent by Eichmann to commanders of the ZIPO and the SD in Belgium and France. Our number 693. and mentions a conversation on the 6th of March 42 with SS Hauptsturmbannführer Dannecker. He also mentions that there is a possibility of evacuating 5,000 more Jews, and in addition to the 1,000 Jews, there was a meeting with Dannecker, and we shall bring further proof regarding this meeting on the 6th of March 42. Last week, the Attorney General submitted to court a number of documents in regard to meetings where the question of sterilization of Jews was discussed. There were two meetings, one on the 6th of March 42 and the other on the 27th of October of the same year. These two meetings took place in the office of the accused, and the Attorney General pointed out that at the meeting in October, Eichmann's name appears with the names of others of his department in the protocol, in the report, then his name does not appear in the meeting of the 6th of March 42, the earlier meeting. The answer to this riddle may be found in the document in my hands at the moment, that on the 6th of March 42, another meeting was held, especially from those active in Germany, including Dannecker. It is also quite possible that, considering the necessity to take part at this other meeting, he did not arrive in time to the meeting.
Judge Landau, I understand your desire to explain this at this stage, but it seems to me that such explanations belong to the end. Perhaps it will be a little more dull, I know, but I think it's unavoidable. Judge Landau, I'm almost certain you will repeat this at the end. Isn't that so, Mr. Bach? The number will be Exhibit T407.
Following document 587. The contents of a letter Dannecker to the commander of the army in France, requesting him to act according to the decision of the Reich Security Police in regard to the evacuation of the Jews. T408. The following document, R number 55, which was already submitted and numbered T37 brackets 22. Here, there is a correspondence between the army commander in France and the accused, and Eichmann decides that to Auschwitz, amongst others, 34 Yugoslavs may be deported, but this must be reported separately.
These are Jews of Yugoslav nationality, ex-Yugoslav nationality.
Yes, this is concerns Jews of former Yugoslav nationality. This is T409, court exhibit. The following letter, our number 1210, Danneker's report in regard to a conversation held between him and Noga of the Reichssecurity Police on the 20th of March. He says Novak telephoned from 4B4 saying that the Transport Ministry already fixed the charts for journeys leaving Paris on the 28th March 42. The train will reach Auschwitz at 5 in the morning on the 30th of March.
T410 will be the number of this exhibit.